Hello, hello. Okay, now that the technical difficulties are out of the way, the video can commence. So I'm going to be applying my makeup using these 5 white Canadian Squirrel brushes from Koyudo, as well as the brushes to kind of prep the rest of the makeup to start with. Mine, unless I drop a brush, so now that's out of the way. I'm going to be using a cushion foundation today just to mix it up a bit, and I'm going to be applying it and blending it with it's actually a blush brush that I'm using. This is the e.l.f. small tapered blush brush. I've talked about this as a synthetic dupe for the Koyudo T5 before, for the people who prefer to use vegan brushes. So this is a really good brush to have because of that tapered shape that the head has, and then can really like fit into all the places on the face. And because it's synthetic, I can use it to apply cream makeup, no problem. I'm just applying this. And what I'm doing is I'm going straight into the pan and then just blending it onto my face. My skin is a bit dry and a bit sensitive this week, so I didn't want to use the super dense puff-like brushes I normally use because once in a while those can poke me. I got sunburned. Shame on me. So my skin's a bit flaky, bit sensitive. It's not flaking so much anymore. I get the occasional flake here and there, but it is still quite thin. So I don't want to use a super dense brush, hence a looser one. You can kind of see how much it splays out. So not my typical mode or preference, but this is why having a variety of brushes on hand is good. You can kind of pick and choose. Doesn't have the cushion foundation doesn't have the greatest coverage, combined with the fact that I'm using a less dense brush. So I'm going to go in with a smaller, more precise brush in a moment to conceal some spots around the face. And yes, this is too light for me, partially because of the SPF. It's a mineral SPF, and that's kind of giving a bit of flashback. But it's okay, I'll fix that with bronzer. I'm going to be using my usual cream foundation to cover up spots. And actually, I switched my little brush out for a spatula. I'm going to be taking a little bit of product here, dotting on the spots that need covering. And actually, I'm just going to use that blush brush / pseudo foundation brush to blend in these spots. So what I'm going to do is just tap, tap, tap. Good. I don't care so much about these, and honestly, I usually wouldn't cover these because they're usually covered by my hair. But because this is the side that's being presented primarily to the camera, I might as well take care of them. Okay, maybe a major miscalculation. I'm a little tanner than I thought I was. But it's okay, I'm not meeting anyone important today. Sorry, Judy. Just a little bit under here. Now that that's done, I'm gonna set everything with a little bit of powder, and because this cushion foundation is tackier than my normal, I'm going to be using a horse brush to do the powdering. Oops, let's get that back into sorts. This is the Shu Uemura 20 in Pony, and I'm going to be using it with a loose powder. And if you're wondering, can the white Canadian Squirrel brushes be used to set makeup? Yes, they can. Is it recommended? Not so much. So it's generally recommended that you don't use Squirrel to set foundation because the oils in the foundation plus unset skin kind of makes the squirrel hair clump, and you have to wash them more often. So you can, but it's not advised. I seem to be on a tapered brush kick today. The reason I say that is because the profile of this brush is very much like my beloved Koyudo T5. And yeah, you can kind of see that diamond profile taper to the brushes. Kind of go through different moods of when I prefer to use certain types of brushes. Sometimes I'll be, oh, I want to use round brushes this week. And sometimes I'll go, no, 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 all paddle brushes. But at the end of the day, these sort of tapered, diamond tapered brushes are my favorite. It's just that sometimes, like my last video, I used all flat top round brushes. All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this video. So if you want to know about white Canadian squirrel, the hair, I already have done a video talking about the hair. It's linked in the description below. But just to recap really quickly, there's two types of Canadian squirrel hair. There's the regular type, just called Canadian squirrel, which is tan. So it's about the color of those drapes back there on the tips. This is white Canadian squirrel. It's supposedly softer. I don't have a full-sized powder brush in regular Canadian squirrel to compare, but Canadian squirrel, in comparison to other squirrels, is much more firm and springy. Like you can see how quickly that's bouncing back, and here's a blush brush. You can see how quickly it comes back. And this is it compared to a horse brush. Granted, this one's built a little bit more differently, but you can see it comes back pretty quickly. And of course, it has the softness and the silkiness of squirrel that everybody looks for. So what are the benefits of it? It's soft, it's resilient, and it blends well. And the downside is white Canadian squirrel is pretty expensive, and it's not a brush that is available all the time. They get released in limited batches every now and then. And when they are released, not every retailer gets them. I'm going to be using this brush here to apply bronzer. I have a Instagram video demonstrating this previously, but you can kind of just see here again how it kind of just folds really nicely across the face. And it blends as I go along, so I really don't need to do more than 2 passes over an area to make sure that product is blended in evenly and applied smoothly. It's one of those brushes where you don't need to keep using it over the same area, but you do because it feels so good. And you can see how it kind of folds and comes back. That's the, I guess, benefit of Canadian squirrel hair compared to equivalent gray squirrel or blue squirrel hair. It would have to be thicker and just more packed in to be denser to kind of get the same performance. So there's that. And as you can see, it picks up and distributes quite a good amount of pigment. So you're not going to run into the issue with white Canadian squirrel where you have a baked product and you have to keep jabbing it and swirling it and you're picking up nothing. This picks up product pretty well. And now that's simply overkill. I'm just rubbing it over my face because it feels good. Once you use it with product, it kind of resembles tan Canadian squirrel. I just find that kind of funny. Okay, so this is the small powder brush size. I think there's a medium and a large size. Honestly, for me, the small powder brush size is perfectly good enough because used on its side like this, you get this huge area coverage that allows you to do finishing. But turned on its side like this, you could apply blush with it. So I'm going to apply one side of blush with this brush and then one side of blush with the actual blush brush itself. So again, that nice diamond taper gives you all sorts of surfaces from the tip, the side, to the huge side to use. So I'm going to use just the tip, smack it into the pan, and then use it to apply blush. could also be used for contour and sculpting, but I'm gonna skip that today. Because as you can see, that tip just fits in there really nicely. Now I'm going to use the actual blush brush to apply blush on the other side. So in comparison, it is much thinner. So for this one, I'm going to be using more of this rather than this part. Someone asked me the other day why these sort of shaped paddle brushes are more versatile than round brushes. Kind of did a little bit of overkill and drew a few diagrams. So if I can remember to post those after this video, I will. And there we go. Now I'm going to take the pigment that's left on this brush and kind of touch it up so it's the same. As you can see, the powder brush applied pigment more diffusely and less intensely than the more compact blush brush did. And part of it is also because the pink color was a little bit dulled by the bronzer that was already in the bristles. I'm going to just touch up a little bit, make the sides even. And then because of this, it can, the shape it has can be used for under eye powder. And that tip can definitely fit down here with contour. But I'm going to use the tip today for highlight. So I'm going to be using this highlight color. Actually, that's too much. I'm going to take some off on the back of my hand. And then I personally like to take highlight on the sides of my forehead to widen it a little bit to increase the proportion width to the rest of my face. Most people apply bronzer and contour on their temple here. I like to widen it. I'm taking a little bit of that highlight powder down through here and down the nose. And just why not? Okay. So that's these two. I honestly don't think you need to go larger than the small powder brush. I think this one is perfectly adequate unless you really want the full of the absolute largest size. So this is, again, the small powder brush. I think they only have one size of blush brush. This is what I have. And they have 3 sizes of eyeshadow brushes. So big, medium, small. Let's turn it on its side so you can see. They're all kind of this bladed shape. So again, they're all pretty versatile. Some of them more versatile than others, obviously, because of size. So let's start with the largest one. So the largest one can be used for under eye powder, but it just doesn't have enough body, enough fluff to it for me to really recommend it for that function. If you really want to do under eye powder, Koyudo T6 is phenomenal for that, along with a lot of other things. So this one for me is more of an eye base brush. So we are going to go in with an eye base of this brown color. And then because of this tip here, I can taper it off like that, and it gives me kind of like a nice contoured socket wing. Like that. I'm just going to use the pigment on the other side of the brush, pick an eyelash out of my eye, and I'm going to use the tip to wrap around a little bit. Now, being quite honest, this can be used for the entire eye look. So this is my base brush. Turned on its side, it would be my lid color brush, and then using just the tip, it would be the detail brush. But because I have the other brushes, I'll be showing how the other brushes are used as well. So let's make my other eye match first. And then wrap it. This is the medium size brush. So in comparison to the large, it's quite a step down. So you can see medium, large. If I turn it, that's how they compare, but the tips kind of do come to the same point. So let's use a medium brush to apply a sort of like shimmery brown color here. This will be my main lid color. I had fully intended to go more bold today, but it looks like I'm sticking to neutrals. Oh, yes, and then I do use my eye brushes kind of vertically like this. And you're able to do that with Squirrel, not just Canadian Squirrel, because the brush is soft. I'm gonna take this part here. I'm gonna be doing a little bit of detail work with, why not? Let's do it with the big one and the small one. So I'm gonna be taking tip here and then applying this more shimmery golden brown to closer to the lash line. What I had used was like a more pearl oyster gray. This one's slightly darker and warmer, so it just gets a nice gradation in there. So that's it with this eye. Now I'm going to use this one. I'm going to use, instead of using the tip, I'm going to use the side of it to achieve the same effect. So you can kind of see when you go down the size, you kind of use the larger of the surface areas to get the same thing. Okay. And draw up a little bit to blend into the oyster browny gray. There we go. And then you're wondering, when does the small brush come into play? When you want really fine detail. So what I would use this one for is if I did eyeliner and then I was going to set it with powder shadow, or if you're doing really intricate work down here. So I'm not using pencil liner today, so I'm just going to be using this one to go into this dark blue here and using it to sort of line the outer corners of my eye. So gonna go here like this, dip it in. It's really, this is truly a fine point that you would find on, say, a pencil brush. So you can see here the tip, it's really quite bladed. Use it. And I'm going to use it to draw a little wing. I'm going to use it to line my eyes. Like so. I'm going to go in with the other eye. You're probably thinking brown and dark blue. What are you thinking? But they're complementary colors. Orange. I consider brown kind of like an orange. And blue. They'll play off each other nicely. Would I use this for tight lining with a cream liner? Absolutely not. You could. It's resilient enough for it, but you know, Squirrel and cream products aren't really supposed to play, so we're going to leave that as a no, or do it at your own risk. Okay, there we go. Just take a little bit here. Super fine. There we go. And I'm going to sort of wipe off the excess as much as I can. And then I'm going to go pop a shimmer color on the inner lid. I don't really have a shimmer color. That one's a matte, so I'm going to be using the face highlighter. Removing the excess, spreading it around. And that's that. That's my makeup applied with all 5 Canadian Squirrel brushes. So of course, you saw me jabbing them into my lash line and around my eye with no repercussions. That's because they're extremely soft and they blend super well. So I hope you enjoyed this demonstration and you were able to get an idea of what brushes might fit you best. Out of all of these brushes, if I had to rank them from priority must get to least must get, it would be the large eyeshadow brush. And if you get the large eyeshadow brush, I would pair it with the small eyeshadow brush, because with the large eyeshadow brush, you're able to do base, you're able to do lid, you're able to do the coloring, shading, and the small one allows you to get very fine detail. The medium one is a, well, happy medium in between the two, but it's not able to do everything that you'd be able to cover with these two brushes here. So there would be little overlap between these two, but you get a large variety of functions. But there would be a lot of overlap between this one, the small and the medium, or the medium and the large, and you might find yourself limited, or the number of things you're able to do or makeup looks you're able to do unsatisfactory. So if you're going to get the large, I do recommend getting the small, or at least having a small soft pencil brush to pair with it to be able to cover everything. So a small pencil brush made of gray squirrel or something like that would be a great companion to the large eyeshadow brush. So this one's definitely my favorite of the set. And as for the face brushes, I'm still on the go big or go home. On this one, you might as well get the small powder brush. Again, you don't need the large powder brush. I have played with that one before and I decided I did not need it. So the small powder brush is my preference over the blush brush because of what you're able to do if it just covers so much area, as well as limit it down to blush and contour if needed. Yes, it doesn't cover highlight, but if you're going to be using the same brush for all the functions, setting powder, finishing powder, bronzer, and blush, it's going to get a little murky, and you should probably have at least 2 separate brushes for doing your face. So this is, again, if you're being really conservative and if you're traveling, you want to cut down on space. And then, as you can see, lovely taper shapes to all of them. That's what makes them so versatile, and they're super soft. And they just feel really, really good. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you've stayed around this long, congrats. I have an announcement. So I will be raffling off this large white Canadian squirrel brush. So the details will be listed in the description, but here they are. So I was given the small eyeshadow brush by FudeBeauty, and they also gifted me this large one. However, because I already have the large one and I don't need to, I would really like to share this with somebody. So if you make a purchase on FudeBeauty by clicking on my affiliate link below, between now and October 15th, you'll be entered into a raffle for the chance to win the brush. So I'll be picking the winner after the raffle closes on October 15th, and I'll contact you and we'll figure out how to get this brush to you. So if you'd like the chance to win, go check the description for the link, and if there's something on FudeBeauty you like, go ahead, click on the link, go to the website and purchase it. And if you've never made a purchase with them before, there is a code for $10 off 100. Unfortunately, it only works if it's your first purchase, so I can't help you if you've already ordered with them before. And I hope you guys are interested, and may you have the best luck. The brush will come already washed, so you can use it straight out of the box. And I do have to say, this brush is more beautiful than the one that I have. I don't know if you can kind of see. This is mine. This is the one. This is the new one. There's more shimmer to the lacquer here. It's a very fine detail, but this one has more shiny of a lacquer paint, and it's just prettier. So you can kind of see as I turn it and it catches the light, this one gleams more. So it's a very nice brush, and I hope you guys participate. So thank you for watching. I will see you guys next time. I don't know when next time is going to be, but I will sign off for now. Thanks. Oh, answering questions. Oh my gosh, I'm so out of practice at this. You're very interested in a large eyeshadow brush. Oh, well, I guess you just heard what I thought of it. The large eyeshadow brush to me is definitely the star of it. If you break it down by a price point, you're thinking, so much for a large eyeshadow brush. I could spend proportionally not that much more and get the blush brush. But the large eyeshadow brush is just really, really nice to have, and especially with COVID, I'm doing a lot more eye makeup than I do face makeup, so maybe you don't need the large face brush. And it's just really, really nice. Okay. Thank you, Icy. Okay, thank you. All right, thanks, Elaine. Thank you, Baroness. All right, signing off for now. Bye.